going back 25 years to What Women Want. The Nancy Meyers movie.
Hey!
Starring Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. What's your favorite Helen Hunt movie? This was a Todd pick. Todd, this is your movie. So tell us all about What Women Want. Since you must be the expert.
What Women Want is directed by Nancy Meyers, and it's about this elite stickman, Nick Marshall, played by Mel Gibson and Logan Lerman, which I didn't know until watching it this time.
Shout out to Percy Jackson.
Yeah, and he's an ad exec, and his job goes to this other lady who's coming from a different firm, Darcy McGuire, played by Oscar winner Helen Hunt, and he wants to get his job, but the thing is that he ends up electrocuting himself, and he can now hear what women think. So he uses that to sabotage her, and but then also kind of fall in love with her while also sabotaging every relationship he has in the process and becoming someone who is not him. I love this movie. I've seen it a ton. It was one of those movies that's on cable a lot, to like that 99 through 2003 era of like TNT, TBS. Like this is right there with like the Fast and the Furious and Remember the Titans and all those movies that we've seen a million times. It is so fun and watchable. I don't think I'd seen the first like maybe 20 minutes more than a few times, but like the last hour or so I've seen them like a million times. It's Mel Gibson has kind of done nothing like this before or since, and it's just fun. I mean, it's a lot of these actors that you've seen a lot, and it was before they were famous, like Sarah Paulson. I didn't even realize it was Lauren Holly until watching this time either. Judy Greer was not a thing yet, and then you have Lisa Edelstein and some others. You have Oscar nominees Valerie Perrine and Bette Midler, and of course Alan Alda. It's just super fun. I mean, it doesn't really feel like a Nancy Meyers movie, and it's because Mel Gibson is different. Like this could have easily been a Tom Hanks movie in 2000 or like in the late 90s or something like that, and it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have felt as real because Tom Hanks is always Tom Hanks, and he would have made it a little goofy. It would have felt like You've Got Mail or something like that. But this is not that. It's more broadly comic, some like physical comedy, a little like Jim Carrey-ish stuff in there, done by a guy you never would expect to do it, which is Mel Gibson, and I love that.
Zach.
So Todd, is this a 3 or 3.5 star for you? That's the real question.
I mean, it's probably 3 stars. I mean, I think that's what I have it at.
Okay,
but I don't rarely ever go 3.5 stars with a flimsy PG-13 romantic comedy. But this is about as good as those get, I think.
What Women Want. Now, great pick by Todd. Okay, I want to say a few things about What Women Want. First of all, I have it as 3.5 stars. Now, I don't know if I'm really going to change that rating. I don't actually think it's a 3.5 star movie. I watched this movie from about the 20-minute mark to the 1:30 mark. I had no idea that Nick was raised by showgirls. I had never seen that intro before. Okay, literally, I had that was complete new information for me. So it kind of enriched the character in a way. When I join the movie is usually about the time that we get the Alden Alda. We're going to put on the purple tie and we're hiring someone else. I'm usually in on that scene. I cash out of this movie at the 90-minute mark. And it is right around that time when they're at the back end, the back alley. Although I like Todd's restaurant better, Billy's Fishing Yarn or whatever. I didn't realize what happened at the end of this movie. I didn't know whether he kept his powers. When Todd said we're recasting the suicidal girl, I'm like, literally, dude, she's in like 2 minutes of this movie. No, she actually plays a pretty major role toward the end of the movie. I didn't realize that. I'd never seen the end of this movie. The end of this movie is terrible, by the way. I mean, it's really, really bad. But there's a reason why I don't watch it. It's terrible. That's one of the worst. I mean, gosh, just end the movie, please. But I will say, from the 25-minute mark to the 90-minute mark, I mean, the movie's a banger. It's fun. It's got some great humor in it, some great sensibility. Now, can I separate the fact that this is a hilarious movie with Mel Gibson as our first diplomat to understanding the way that women think. I mean, I think that's hilarious. That's like the scene in Contact when they discover that the first radio transmission that the aliens received was from Hitler. Hitler was our first diplomat in outer space. Mel Gibson was the first guy who could speak Venusian. That's kind of hilarious, okay? I love that. Mel Gibson in this movie, I think he said this was his first rom-com, which is interesting. But we're going to do a power ranking Mount Rushmore. I mean, he is kind of charming in this movie. And I think, this was before all the shit went down with Mel Gibson. There is no celebrity that I watch more YouTube clips of than Mel Gibson, because it is just an array of a vast variety array of shit. Okay. You can use that soundbite. This was the era though, before he got completely canceled. So all the shit that was going down was just behind closed doors. But I like that he smokes in this movie. I like that he's a mess in this movie. I like that this it's got a little bit of like the Mad Men thing going on with the creative firm. There's obviously the movie has a little bit of like Tootsie in it. Now, I granted, I watched the Ebert and Roper review of it, and Roper made that comparison. I never really realized that before, but really, this movie is kind of like a variation of Tootsie with like the man channeling this inner woman. In this movie, he does it by putting on the mascara and the beads and the hot wax. That's almost like invoking the gods to give him the power. I like that this movie doesn't explain how he gets that power, by the way. That's good. That's nice. This movie's way too long. Like I said, I don't know what happens in the last 30 minutes because usually I'm passed out drunk by that point. Kind of like Mel Gibson in the bathtub usually by that point watching this movie, which I will probably be by the end of this podcast too. But I like this movie. It's a fun movie. The Mel Gibson impression of Sean Connery was great, putting on the adversary in a Hunt for Red October. Nick Marshall is probably the greatest movie character that also was a former Auburn quarterback who made a national championship game. So there's that too. It's got a lot going for it, a lot of charm. Great sex scene with Marisa Tomei. She doesn't play the tugboat captain in this movie, but she does work at a Starbucks, so that's wonderful. And it's a fun time. I can't say it's an all-time classic, but it is a very quotable movie, judged by the fact that I think anytime Todd or I hear the name Margaret Burke White, this is probably the first movie we think of. So there we go. What Women Want. Solid pick. Terry's number 42 of 2020. It's my number 45 of 2020, by the way.
I didn't realize just how well I knew this movie until I rewatched this movie. Like there were little snippets I remembered of it, but there were entire scenes I could quote. Even though I probably haven't seen this movie in 20 years. I even said to Todd when I saw him at the movies Friday night that as I was watching it, the line I couldn't wait for is when Mel Gibson turns around and looks at Anna Gasteyer and goes, "Sue Cranston!" For whatever reason, just the way he delivered that line, I always remembered. I think I watched What Women Want before I watched The Hunt for Red October. So it kind of ruined watching The Hunt for Red October because all I could think about was waiting for when Sean Connery would say the great adversary. That was all. It was like, oh, there it is. There's the line. There's the line. This is a fascinating movie. I love the cast of this movie. It's one that, I mean, we talk about outdated at some point. It would never be made the way it was made then today, right? That could never happen. But
well, they tried with What Men Want. Have anybody seen that?
No, I don't. Adam might have. I don't know. We can look this up.
It seems like an Adam movie.
I think the overall message of the movie comes through really clear, and I don't know. I don't hate the ending, but I'd actually seen it at some point in the last 25 years. Unlike Zach,
I didn't even know that he went to her apartment.
You've never seen the ending. That is disappointing. One of the things I loved about What Women Want is I watched it on Canopy because
I did too.
Yeah.
So
and when I looked up What Women Want on Canopy, one of the other movies that said if you like this, you might also like was She Came to Me, the Marisa Tomei tugboat captain movie. Which is also on Canopy. So if you're interested in that, you can watch it there. It's a solid movie, but it makes the list of like one of the most fun, deep diveable movies, I think. And that's why this is going to be a lot of fun because it just has so many characters that do so many little things that we're going to have some fun with this for sure.
By the way, Mel Gibson, top in this movie, Nick Marshall, top 5 character you'd probably just want to watch TV with, right? I mean, he's got some great commentary going. Like he gets some great commentary on the boxing that he immediately turns off. He's moved by the Richard Simmons broadcast. I think he's actually a great TV companion, both pre and post getting his cerebral powers to read women's minds. He's a great person to hang out with and watch TV with. Nice drunk scene too. I wish he was a little more self-loathing. I think we needed a little bit more Paul Giamatti in this character. If I were to go back to Nancy and Chuck and say, let's redesign the movie a little bit, a little more self-hatred would have been good. Smoking. Do we get characters who smoke anymore? Smoking. Also, Bette Midler smokes in this movie too. It's kind of fascinating. I miss the smoking era. Now we get movies that get PG-13 for smoking. I mean, that's a content warning. You know, I miss smoking.
There you go. Who would Nicolas Cage play?
I mean, this is not that dissimilar from like The Family Man or something. Like, he could have easily been Nick Marshall at that time.
Yeah, that would have been a great Family backup if Mel Gibson said no. Who would 90s Giamatti play? I said Gigi's new husband.
Oh, that's not bad. That's a good one.
The 90s Giamatti?
Yeah.
No, he would. That would be played by Ken, the restaurant guy from Sideways.
Of course,
like the same character.
See, I was trying to figure this out. I had watched like over half the movie, and I was like, I don't have a 90s Giamatti, and I don't know where it's going to come up. And then I rewatched the beginning, and it was a male coffee shop customer. Like he comes up where he comes up to him, and he's like, you know, that was inspiring. Like I say, oh, that was inspiring. Like, I don't know. I can see it being Giamatti.
I would go with camera person on the Richard Simmons infomercial.
He could play the Indiana Pacer who missed the shot that cost him $500 on his bet.
Highest war performance.
I don't know. I guess Marisa Tomei. She's doing her thing. I don't really sure that the movie deserves a performance as committed as she has in this, and I think it's just because she's an Oscar-winning actress appearing as a side character and a great side character. So I'll go Marisa Tomei.
I really want to go Loretta Devine. She would be my pick, but I'm going to go with Helen Hunt, Oscar winner, just because she's doing 3 other movies that year. She's working with Robert Altman. She's working with Kevin Spacey. She's working with a bunch of canceled men. It's pretty impressive. She's really good in the movie. I don't need to see her apartment, and I don't need to hear about her marriage, but I appreciate everything she did as her marriage fell apart with Hank Azaria.
I had Helen Hunt down too, and I was trying to come up with something different, but I can't. It's Helen Hunt. That's my highest war in this one. She like exudes such a unique aura and of having that professionalism, but through this sex appeal too, that you can tell completely disarms Nick just simply in like who she is. And that was what made recasting her so difficult, is finding someone that could be both, that could be both the sexiest one in the room and the most grown-up person in the room. Bill Paxton Memorial worst performance.
Oh, I'm ready for
goes
this
to
one.
who, Zach?
The daughter. She's awful in this movie. Ashley.
Oh.
I mean, wow. Took me out of the movie. I mean, we're in a golden age of young actresses here, and you're going to go with this lady who, you know, went on to do absolutely nothing. Well, give me some Christina Ricci, okay? Or how about Thora Birch, or young Scarlett Johansson, or Natalie Portman? I mean, there's so many other options for teen actresses from this era that, you know, you could have as stuck-up daughters who are going to lose their virginity on prom night, and you go with her. I mean, come on. It's just it's not a great performance, and I find her fairly obnoxious in the movie. I find that whole subplot fairly obnoxious, and just another way to kind of hamstring in another female character who can speak with their mind. But not.
I disagree. I think she's good. I think she's good.
Yeah, I've always thought she was pretty good in that. Like, I mean, I can put her in a similar category to like Erica Christensen in Traffic or something like that. I feel like
Erica Christensen would have been
not an easy role, and she does it. She plays like a badass, like she listens to that music, and she's supposed to give off that feeling. I don't think I've ever thought that about like a Natalie Portman type or a Scarlett Johansson type, even at the time. I mean,
But
maybe
think of how
Thora
much
Birch,
better the
but she was
movie
coming
would
off
be.
a Best Picture winner. I don't think they could have come up with that better of a choice.
I don't believe at all that she listens to that music. I don't believe that she is with those friends. And correct me if I'm wrong, in the last 30 minutes, does Nick show up at her prom? Like, what the hell is happening in this movie? It's completely falling apart. But maybe that's not all the actress's fault. I'm just saying that it's not a performance that aged well, and I don't think highly of her performance.
Looking at this, I think this is a movie with a lot of side characters that know their role and know their lane and stick to it. But if I had to pick one as the worst performance, I think I'm going Alan Alda. Just simply like what Todd said earlier, Alan Alda's just kind of showing up and being Alan Alda.
He did that all the way to an Oscar nomination 4 years later.
He did do it
Yeah.
to an Oscar nomination. But yeah, I think this is one of those movies where like the worst written roles are the male roles in this movie.
I got Sarah Paulson.
Ooh.
I think she's just she dials it up a little bit too much. Like she's a little over the top in how she plays that role. And then like the next scene, she's like one of the four girls that's like loving Nick. I never understood that character because she plays it up so much in the beginning. There's no way that character becomes the character it becomes later on. It's her fault.
Minor characters, I think I'm first here. Amazing Larry, Big Tim, High Roller, minor character of the movie. I have a tie between Eve and Margot. They're both awesome. I love those two. The Charlie Duke Ticket Taker movie maker, I'm going to say it's Bette Midler, explaining to him that he speaks Venusian. And the Matt Damon, what movie are you in? It's Flo. Just pure interaction in a completely different movie.
Minor character, Amazing Larry goes to Stella, which is the maid.
Yeah,
she's super sassy. I've seen her in some other stuff too. She's a fun actress. Minor character who causes the movie to happen. Flo is that one because she's the first one that he realizes that he's actually hearing the thoughts.
Oh, good call.
Imagine what movie are you in? Marisa Tomei.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of said that in her why she's the highest war because it's a side plot that is a complete side, and she has no connection to any other character in the whole movie except for Nick, and it's just to get Marisa Tomei in there to be Marisa Tomei.
Okay, my minor character is obviously Flo. I've already mentioned her a few times. Terry mentioned her too. I want a whole movie about Flo. Ticket Taker, movie maker. I don't think I have anything good here. I don't know. Sean Connery, because if he's watching The Hunt for Red October, a 2.5-star movie, he doesn't try out the women's lingerie and nothing ever happens. So the relative poor quality of the great Phil Alden Robinson classic based on Tom Clancy novel is the Ticket Taker movie maker. Matt Damon Award winner. I'm going with the Deaf Ladies. Maybe they were out of Coda or something. I don't know. Was she a deaf saleswoman? I couldn't quite figure out what the story was there, but
Tripod of Depravity, Stickman, Douchebag, Most Punchable Face. Going to Todd first.
I mean, the Hall of Fame Stickman is of course Nick Marshall, but if we're going aside from that, you're going with The Boyfriend in Israel.
Jaime,
like the band.
So douchebag. I mean, there aren't very many men in this movie, so I guess. I guess I'll go Cameron. He does sort of abandon his date at the prom. I guess that makes him a douchebag. And most punchable face. His name is Morgan.
That's right. Yeah, apparently that is his name.
On Wikipedia, it says Nick's best friend, who is a protege. I never got that impression that they were actually best friends and that he was a protege. I just thought that he was like a coworker. So, he's totally punchable.
How did Zach refer to him? The dick that Nick works with. I agree with the sentiment. Zach, what do you got?
Stickman's Cameron. He's the only character that gets it in the whole movie. Now, you could make the case.
He doesn't get it in. He gets in her shirt.
Okay. But I don't know. I think it's controversial whether Nick is a great stickman or not. I'm not necessarily one who believes that because he didn't seal the deal with Lola until he got his powers. So that automatically makes it's almost like the steroid era. Okay, if you're going to say Mark McGuire's 1998 season is the greatest season of all time, that's fine. But it's he's not in the Hall of Fame, so you can't put Nick Marshall in the Hall of Fame for that same reason. It's the steroid era. It doesn't count.
He's in the Roger Sterling ad man, stick man. Like he talks the big game and finishes the deal.
And even with his sexual performance, it's a little bit like the Seahawks offense in the beast mode era. Like he couldn't do anything in the first half.
Just because she says he's light on the grande.
He needed some halftime adjustments there, man. I don't know. I don't see him as a great stick man. Cameron, on the other hand, I mean, he's pounding it in. He's the Iron Chef of pounding Vaj. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
she's
go
15.
Cameron.
That means she was 10 5 years ago. Think about it.
I'm gonna go Cameron, even though he doesn't have a very memorable name. Douchebag, I already said Mark Firestein, and then punchable face. I guess punchable face would be Nick's role model, played by Gregory Coupley, in a scene I had never seen before watching it last night, because I didn't know that Nick grew up among showgirls. That was an interesting.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
Slaps the girl in the ass. Yeah, he should have been played by a young Jon Favreau. I could have seen that. That would have been my recasting for that character.
So my three here are the same three that Todd had, but just in a slightly different order. I originally had Cameron as my stick man. I switched to Haim. Morgan is the douchebag, and I put Cameron as most punchable face. But I think several of these are interchangeable for different spots.
I don't think Cameron's that punchable. I just think that he's a normal like high school asshole. Like he was the same way in 6 Feet Under. I mean, he's that actually has that vibe. Like it could have been Chris Klein, not Chris Hemsworth.
What's the best scene in this movie, Zach?
Oh, please. Thank you. Okay. The whole reason that this deep dive intrigued me was the Bette Midler scene. That is a great scene in this movie. That's the one scene I'll actually watch and really not have any inclination to turn off the TV. I like scenes with characters with superpowers and with people that doubt them. That shit works for me every time. Oh, you're a mind reader? Yeah, right. Well, tell me what I'm thinking now. And then they get disproven. I love how Bette Midler throws her pen. I love that she's shopping for the lamp on eBay. That character needed to be more in the movie. I mean, I'm sorry. I got to change my flow vote. I love Bette Midler in this movie. I think we should have recast her. And that scene is hilarious. I don't know what Bette Midler's doing in the movie. She could also be a Matt Damon award winner too. I think this is like the First Wives Club era Bette Midler. But
she's here even uncredited.
Yeah, she's uncredited. She must have a day of work. No SGA residuals. Did it as a favor to Nancy.
She has voiceover too. It had to be at least 2 days of work.
My best scene. I've got a couple things here that I'm going to shout out. The scene in Aaron's apartment, I think, is really good and really interesting. I've always liked that one. But possibly my favorite scene, it's two scenes. It's the two scenes that have to deal with the pitch to Nike. When they come up with the idea and then when they pitch the idea to Nike. I love those scenes and how that works together. And that slogan, "No games, just sports." That's a great line. It's a great slogan. Like, why didn't they actually like run with that after this?
It could be argued that Mad Men based their whole show on like that scene. Like they're like, I think we could do that. Turn that into an entire show. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be something with Nick and Darcy. I like the scene where he goes into her office late at night when neither of them knew that each other was there, and she's listening to Frank, and then he starts to like talk about how he tried all the things in the box and stuff like that. It's like there's scenes like that make you feel like there actually was really sweet connection between them, and it wasn't just like all him trying to sabotage her. Like he really did get somewhere emotionally with her. And that scene was fun, and he makes fun of her to start the scene, which is cool.
Scenes we missed. Is there a scene you wish would have been in this movie that wasn't? I'm gonna say no, because this movie had no business being over 2 hours long.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, I mean, it would have had to have added another Marisa Tomei scene because she's gone for like an hour and 20 minutes in the middle of the movie.
That's fair.
This movie is too much. Like, what is Lauren Holly doing in this movie? She's a Matt Damon nominee too. Like, what does that character have to do with anything?
It sets up the whole daughter thing, which you hate. So no wonder you're asking why she's there. Flaws, outdated conspiracy theories.
I don't know how a guy like Nick gets married and has a kid. Like, it's hard to believe, especially him when he was like younger Nick, like when he was like 30 or something, that he was probably even more of a player. Like, how is he smitten with a lady to the point that he's gonna have a kid with her and get married to her? I just want to know like how that actually went, because him being a bachelor in his mid 40s, it just seems like he's been that way forever. I don't know. I want to know where he actually got married, and because he's like celebrating the fact that she's getting remarried. What happened? I don't know.
What happened?
And I'm also very confused about the layout of Nick's apartment, because it's like this big place. He's got this massive master bathroom, and his daughter and boyfriend just walk in. Like, there's no door. It's just like a big open, like there's this massive opening right into the center of his bathroom. Like, what part of it is not a studio apartment? That thing was huge. The thing was probably like $1 million. Like, how? I don't know. I don't understand the layout. I want to know what the set actually looked like, because that made no sense. There's no door to the bathroom. And his bedroom wasn't up. There was a hallway.
It's good. It's good.
That never bothered you?
I didn't think about it till just now, but that's a great point.
Yeah, I never noticed that either.
Just walk into his bathroom. Like, how often do you bring your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever? How long do you walk them into the master bathroom?
Yeah, I had a couple things. One was I wondered what would happen in a Crying Game / Amelia Perez situation. Can he, like, say someone's, or Yentl situation, you know, someone's trying to disguise themselves as a man. He's a man, he's a she. Maybe, is it possible that Valerie Perrine and Delta Burke are trans? Or are they really, I mean, like, maybe, like, that's maybe why he can't hear them. I don't know. But I want to know the situation there. And then, you know, if he can hear dogs, I mean, where's the limit to this, you know? And I'm intrigued that a poodle would speak with a French accent. By the way, my recasting for that was Excel Exarchopoulos as the voice of the French poodle.
Well, I mean, that just plays into like his version of in his head of the song that he's listening to, which is "I'm a bitch, I'm a mother, I'm a brother. It's confusing." So that's sort of what he's feeling.
An underrated line. I'm a bitch, I'm a mother, I'm a brother. It's confusing.
That is funny. That would have been a good quote of the day, actually. And then my final thought is faking an Advil. I don't know. Is that a real thing, Sue Cranston? I don't know anyone that does. I don't know anyone that does that. I don't know why he went with that. That seemed like a pretty desperate maneuver. And if he's making the bank to get that apartment, I mean, I don't know. Is he really good at his job? Is he good at anything? He's not. I don't think he's. I think he's an overrated stick man who got a McGuire 98-esque boost with some steroids or something. And
no, because Dan even says, like, you get in any girl's pants in the whole world. Like, nobody's better at that.
I think he's overrated. That's all I'm saying. He's not great. And the women all know it too. So I don't know. Nick Marshall, not a great stick man.
They all know it. But they all know it because he's banged them all. I hate that you've seen me naked. Like that. They've all experienced the Nick. What's
Anna Gassar
ridden
doing in this movie,
Nick Marshall roller coaster? Yeah, I don't know what she's doing in this movie. LVP, MVP, and then we'll wrap this thing up. My LVP is the prom dress that Nick picked at the start of the montage, because that thing was hideous.
That was pretty bad.
And
that's a good call. Very good call.
You say you like it, I'm going to die. And then the MVP, my MVP is the casting director. I mean, to bust out a cast like this of all people who eventually become something is pretty impressive. And like the one we said didn't, Ashley Johnson was the one that was the biggest name of all of them at that point because she'd been a child actor. And so, yeah, awesome casting in this movie. Todd.
LVP, I have the current version of the Golden Globes, because this, like, What Women Want was nominated for Best Actor in a Comedy Movie. Those nominations don't happen anymore. And, like, we need more just, like, Mel Gibson being awesome doing like physical comedy, dancing to Frank Sinatra, and just being super suave. Like the movies don't get nominated anymore at the Golden Globes because they suck now. But back then, it was awesome. They actually cared about comedy. And the MVP, I'll say Nancy Meyers. I think it probably is what makes the movie grounded and not seem like a kind of a woman hating movie or something. Like it could have been. She brings it back to make it a digestible romantic comedy that's actually really good.
This was nominated for Best Casting in a Comedy in 2000 at the Casting Society of America. Just throwing that out there.
And Marisa Tomei,
yeah, got a supporting actress nomination at the Satellite Awards.
Yes.
All right, Zach, LVP, MVP.
All right, MVP is the city of Chicago. Great, obviously authentically shot in Chicago with those great backlots and the sets that look very super Chicago. I love the insert, which is, I think, the same insert, according to IMDb, as the opening from Family Matters. This movie has a lot of weird parallels to some great sitcoms. LVP of this movie, I don't know. I'm a bitch, I'm a lover. I don't know. Gets mutilated by Mel Gibson's singing in this movie.
Very nice.
It's good when you can't come up with an LVP.
Yeah, I guess that speaks to the quality of the movie. I guess the last 30 minutes, that's the LVP of the movie. It's terrible. But any scene involving going to the Helen Hunt's apartment.
I struggled with an LVP too until I thought of the prom dress.
The dress was a good one.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to draw this podcast to a close. This podcast has definitely been
tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really longer than the movie.
Very long movie.
When we started by breaking down the bracket as it was getting revealed, I knew we were going to be in for a marathon one. But thank you guys so much for listening all the way to the end. We'll be back at you next week with another episode. Until then, have fun watching movies. We'll catch you on the flip side.